Guys, there are spoilers for this film and this review. So, if you don't want to run out of batteries, go out with your film and come back. You have been warned.
Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan TMHD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to an episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan TMHD, and this week we watched Five Nights at Freddy's 2, sequel to the first Five Nights at Freddy's film adaptation of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise by Scott Cawthon, also written by Scott Cawthon. I did not like this movie. I'm just going to be straight up. I did not like it. While I enjoyed the first film, it's not a great movie. It was an enjoyable and fun film. This isn't a good movie, nor is it enjoyable. There were parts of it that I laughed at because of how stupid they were, and other points I was just mad because I'm an OG fan. But I'm going into a rant before I go on a little tangent. Why I didn't like this film. I'll tell you why I didn't, and more. Back to the house.
Where are you gonna run to? I'm not done with you. There's no way that'll work.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan TMHD, and this week we watched Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the movie, directed by Emma Tammy? Tammy? I think it's Tammy. Written by Scott Cawthon, who created, obviously, the Five Nights at Freddy's video game franchise. And this film is starring Josh Hutcherson, Piper Rubio, and Elizabeth Lale. There are a couple other people, but I think the main three are the only ones I really need to mention here. With that being said, I did not like this movie. I'm just going to be straight up. I did not like this film. While there were a couple things I liked, I did, obviously, the puppet animatronics were great. There is a puppet animatronic in the marionette, but I'm talking about everybody here. They were all puppets, right? I very much enjoyed them. Obviously, Jim Henson Costume Company are like, I don't think it's controversial to say they're probably the best puppet makers in the industry, right? I don't even think it's really a competition. They are Jim fucking Henson, right? Jim Henson Costume Company. They were amazing. They all looked great, and I think they did a great job. However, I think the rest of the film just really did not work for me. I'm just gonna go down a list here. I think obviously, I'm an OG fan of the old Five Nights at Freddy's games. I don't really keep up with it anymore. I don't hate the new stuff because I've never played it, so I don't really have an opinion on them. Not my thing. But the old stuff, from like 1 to 4, I have so much nostalgia for those games. I played them. I was never able to beat them because I was a stupid 8-year-old and I had no idea how to play it, but I did play them and I had a lot of fun even though I didn't know what I was doing. And I just have so much nostalgia. I was there for the hype of the game that this movie is based on. I was there since, maybe not day one, but I was there when the hype started, okay? I was there when this was just getting big. And it's like, I obviously have some bias, right? Because the original lore that's in the games, like, I know it by heart, basically, at this point. Like, most of it I have very well memorized. And they just do not follow the lore of the game, straight up. And even if you look beyond that, like, even if, say, you had never played Five Nights at Freddy's, you didn't know the story of Five Nights at Freddy's, you didn't even know what a William Afton is, right? You don't know what any of this means. I still think there's not much enjoyment for it to be had, even if you're, like, fresh to the franchise. Because it's just not a strong movie. Like, the writing is really bad. It's just, like, a lot of it just feels kind of maybe not pointless. Maybe it feels pointless because the whole movie was just really disappointing, and I just watched it. I'm like, why did I watch this, right? So maybe the movie's not pointless. It just felt pointless because it was bad to me. And overall, okay, so let me name something that I didn't like about it. I think one of my least favorite parts of the film was Abby. She was so annoying because she wasn't even a character. She was like a damsel in distress, basically, right? She was just somebody that needed to be rescued. And she didn't even really have any character traits, which from what I remember, the first film she did, like, she did other things, but in this film, she's just like, I love Chica Five Nights at Freddy's so much. I want to be with my friends that are giant robots, right? And it's like, that's her whole character, is that she just loves Freddy Fazbear, right? That is her entire character. She's like the fans. She was like the prime demographic when these games, like, still actually, like, the consistent demographic these games have had for the last 10 years. Which, no disrespect. No disrespect at all. I just think, like, she was really annoying because that's, I said, that's all she talked about. She never did anything aside from, I miss my friends. I want to be with my friends. I want this. I want this. And every word that came out of her mouth was about Chica or about the Freddy gang. And that's not engaging. That's not endearing to me. If the only thing a character thinks about is, like, I guess the namesake of the series, like, the central thing, I don't care because I don't know who this person is. All I know is that they like this one thing. And that's all I know. And, like, it just didn't make sense. And the dialogue was really bad. Like, she basically just repeated the same few things, like, over and over again. Like, literally, I think for the first, at least the first hour, like, the only words that came out of her mouth were, I miss my friends, or, oh, this was so great, you don't believe what I say, do you? Like, variations of the same 5 things. And it was frustrating because then Mike, now we're going to get into this. This is like a lore thing. This is like a nitpicky, like, old fan, like, old man yelling at clouds thing that I want to talk about, but I just can't not talk about it. I'm just going to say this right now. William Afton and Michael Afton are my favorite characters from the franchise. I love them. I think William is a great bad guy. He's really easy to hate, but he's also really cool, and I don't care. He's cool. I don't care. They kind of ruined him in 6. No, he sounded really cool in 6. He looked awful in 6. I'm going on a rant about the games. Either way, they just straight up, they put Michael Afton in this movie, but there was already a Mike from the first one, and this is just a game theory, right? But I think that when Scott was writing the first film, he differentiated the Josh Hutcherson Mike from Michael Afton from the games because he wanted to maybe distance the movies from the games a little bit and do their own thing. But then I think, like, maybe, like, a quarter of the way through writing this film, he's like, well, shit. I kind of need Michael Afton in this story, don't I? He's pretty fucking important because he's the central protagonist of it all. He's the vessel that, like, through probably 75% of the games, you are playing as Michael Afton. He is the main character of the franchise. So, and, like, the game's plot would not, like, the lore would not work if it wasn't Michael Afton. So he's like, well, I kind of need Michael, so I'm gonna add Michael in this movie, even though he wasn't even, like, given lip service in the first one. He was not even mentioned or referenced at all in the first one. Here's Michael, he exists now, right? And that's the thing. Like, I think this is just a Scott Cawthon problem because he did this in the games too. Scott isn't good at thinking ahead, right? I think it's pretty well known at this point that the reason the Five Nights at Freddy's, like, game lore is so convoluted and so, like, complex is because Scott was just making shit up as he went along, right? So Henry Emily did not exist for a good portion of the franchise, right? And then he did. And he's a really important character, but he just popped into existence and they acted like he existed the entire time. Which, I like Henry. He's a good character. But it's true. He just appeared, right? Or maybe he didn't and I'm just remembering things wrong because it's been 10 years. But regardless, they did that in this as well. With obviously William was in the last one and he didn't even really do anything in this one. Like, I don't even really know what the point of him being in it was. And Michael, who straight up is just not Michael Afton. He's like just William, like Diet Coke William is what he is, right? And it's like, that's not what Michael is in the original games. Yeah, he's, like, misguided and naive, but he's not evil. And it's like, in this one, he's really creepy and weird, and he only becomes creepy and weird after he becomes a walking corpse, right? So you'd assume a guy who's literally basically like a zombie would be kind of creepy and weird, right? You'd assume that, but that's in the last game, in the series, the story that is being told. That is the conclusion. So I just don't like what they did with Michael, because he's not Michael. He's trying to continue the work of William, which, as I said, he just popped into existence and they act like he's been there the whole time. And then, so the only explanation they don't even give an explanation as to why Vanessa didn't tell Mike, the Josh Hutcherson Mike. She didn't tell him why Michael existed or why there was another location. They never really explained why she didn't tell him that. Because you think it would be kind of important, right? So, oh yeah, by the way, I have a brother and a sister who died, but let's just brush that under the rug. That doesn't matter. It's not like my family has a history of murder or anything. You know, it's not like we're like a generation of serial killers, right? It's not like, why not mention that? Because, and I know I'm just rambling here, but it just genuinely made me really mad. And also Charlie, the puppet, I did not like the way they portrayed her in this, because she just, I don't know, she just wasn't good. I'm not as passionate about her as I am with Michael. I do like her as a character, but Michael's the GOAT, okay? I love Michael. Either way, it's just also the toy animatronics. Also, I'm going to get more into the timeline lore shit, because that's what I'm going to complain about. So the beginning of the movie opened with Vanessa and Charlie. They were, Charlie was like sitting by the marionette's like stage, which, for one, why the fuck does the marionette have a stage? The marionette was not a performer animatronic. She gave kids gifts, but she didn't have a stage. She was in the prize corner. And essentially, she was a security puppet. Her entire being of existence was basically to just make sure that Charlie was not harmed. And that's why later on, Charlie possessed the puppet, because the puppet was made basically for her. The puppet existed as like basically a sentient security camera. And on the side, it was also a bodyguard. That is what the puppet was. It was not a performer, so I don't know why it had a stage. And two, she was like obsessed with the puppet, which Charlie wasn't. She kind of took the role of Elizabeth in Sister Location, who is another Afton. So we got 3 Aftons in this story, because Elizabeth was teased for no reason other than fan service, mind you. She had no reason to be in this film. Well, I'll get to that. And so essentially she was just like sitting there, and they were talking, whatever, and then she saw William luring a child into the back to kill them. The William thing, that's what he did. So she tried to get the parents' attention, and she was very distressed, right? But the parents were acting like she was just like being like irrational, but she was clearly very distressed, so it didn't make a lot of sense with how, it didn't seem like they were careless. It just seemed like they were like oblivious to her emotions. They were like, oh, it's okay, not right now. It's not like they were brushing her aside. They were just like acting like it wasn't a big deal. Like she wasn't acting really distressed. They were acting like she was just like, hey, like tugging on their sleeve or something. Like, like when like your little cousin comes up to you and they ask you for something, you're like, oh, not right now. That's how they acted when she was like, help me, we need help right now. Like, I think you should take that seriously. She's not asking for candy or something, right? And then she just on her own decides to go into the back to follow Afton, and somehow she knows the room. I think like maybe there was like a trail or something that led her to the room where William took him, and she went in, and William was washing his hands as the mask was off, and he was like washing his hands, and the kid was lying on the ground, and I assumed he was dead, because that would make sense. He lured them into the back and he killed them, right? That's what he did. But then somehow this like little 8-year-old girl, 9-year-old girl was able to princess carry this kid and like outrun this fully grown adult. Well, yeah, he's in like a springlock suit. Springlock suits aren't that heavy. I mean, they're heavy, but it's not like fucking making him lumber around like an ogre or something. Like, he can still walk normally. So she outruns him, but not really, because he stabs her in the back 3 times instead of... If he's able to catch up... I'm jumping ahead. So she gets onto the stage carrying the kid, and she like screams, right, to get the parents' attention, because for some reason they didn't notice the child carrying another child running onto the stage, or running like through the curtains on the stage. And she screams, and then the kid like suddenly gains consciousness, walks away, and then she collapses and dies, because somehow William Afton was able to catch up to her and stab her 3 times in the back, but he wasn't able to just like scoop her up and like grab her. He's a fully grown man, and she's like a child. He would totally, and she's carrying a child. He could definitely carry both of them at the same time. He totally could have like scooped her up. But no, he just decided to go before she got out the curtain. He was just like shanked her a couple times. And then they played it off as an accident. Oh yeah, you just accidentally get stabbed in the back 3 times. That's totally something that's accidental. And it's like, that was not a good start for me. Like, it already was very weirdly written, and the whole movie is like that. That's just one example. The whole movie is weirdly written like that, and so I think the ending and the beginning and the ending, I think, are also the best examples of what's wrong with this film. So I'm also now going to talk about the ending, problems I had with that. Now, the whole film, the toy animatronics had been built up as, like, this legitimate threat, right? Like, they, you know, were outsmarting the main characters, and they were, you know, hunting people down, and they were killing people, and, you know, they were just doing, like, you know, nefarious evil robot things, right? And eventually it gets to the point where, so Charlie, the marionette, is basically trying to murder, I guess, all the parents, like, ever, I guess. I don't think that's what she wanted to do in the games, but I haven't read on the lore in a while, so maybe she wanted to murder all the adults, I guess. Which, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So she possesses Abby, right? And then she's, like, in human form, but she, like... So she possesses her, but she, like, looks like the puppet, but it, like, with makeup and clothes. And out of context, it looks kind of cool, right? The makeup looks nice. Like, the glowing eyes are kind of eerie a little bit. But I don't like it. It just doesn't fit the marionette. It just looks weird. I don't know. Either way. So then Josh Hutcherson comes in, and Henry Emily, the father of Charlie, he's barely in the movie, but Mike came in, and he talked to him about it, and Henry gave him, like, a bit of exposition, telling him what happened, and this and that, and how he had a music box that would, you know, put Charlie to sleep, like, she would, you know, fall asleep to the music box, so he gave it to him. And so, like, a music box is what kept her at bay, kind of like the games, but kind of not really as well, because, like, on the cameras, there was literally a manual button to wind a music box manually from his desk, so it was a little different, but it's similar. So then he turns on the music box and he winds it, and then she stops possessing Charlie, and I guess she goes into, like, sleep mode for, like, 20 minutes, right? And then, so you think it's all fine and dandy, but then the toy animatronics, like, storm in. And by storm in, I mean Mangle just kind of bursts her head through the window and doesn't come in. He just kind of pokes her head out the window. Whatever. But then, so essentially that comes in, and then Michael comes in, and he reveals he has, like, this whole villain monologue about how he needs to continue William's work, and he wants Vanessa to join him, rejoin the family, this and that, and he's just not Michael Afton, just straight up not Michael, which made me mad. I really didn't like that. But then you had, like, a fucking endgame portal moment where the animatronics from the first game/movie came in and defeated the toy animatronics in, like, 2 seconds. They were built up as threats the whole movie, and then when the original ones came in, they didn't even fight back. They just, like, let it happen, right? So Mangle, she was taken down, and Foxy, like, stomped on her head, right? Like, and that was pretty simple. Or, like, no, I think he, like, cut her head off with his hook or something, whatever. Like, one swipe, by the way. He, like, grabbed her neck with his hook and just immediately, she's done. And then I think Bonnie stepped on Toy Bonnie's head in, like, 2 moves, gone. And then I think Toy Chica also got, like, her head ripped off by original Chica in, like, 1 move. And I think original Freddy killed Toy Freddy. I don't even remember how, but he did it quick, right? They were fucking pushovers. And then get this, basically immediately after the toy animatronics, get defeated, the OG animatronics just happen to immediately die afterwards. And then Michael Afton runs outside, and Jeremy, who is like a friend of Mike, not Michael, of Mike, and he clotheslines him, and it was kind of funny how he, like, ran outside and he just went, brrr, like a fucking wrestling clothesline. That was funny. And he's like, where do you think you're going? And then they go back and they're like, oh no, the children, this and that. And then they just like, oh yeah, we're free, by the way. Bye. Literally, essentially what the blonde-haired kid, who I think is Michael's little brother, who got murdered by William, he just says, oh yeah, we're free, by the way, now. Thank you. Goodbye. That's essentially what he says. And in the games, like, that's not what happened at all. It took a lot more than that for their because can spirits just decide when they're free? If that's the case, then why didn't they just do it immediately? If they could have just been if they could have just, like, freed themselves by leaving the restaurant, or could have just left at their own volition, then why didn't they? Why did anything have to happen? Why did they even possess the suits if they could have just left? Right? Oh, thanks for helping my friends. Goodbye. And it's like the whole point was they had to, like, kind of, like, get, like, kill Afton or something like that. Like, they were so bitter and angry about Afton killing them that they wanted to make sure he stayed dead, right? Because he was still alive undead in the Springtrap outfit, so he technically wasn't fully dead. But I don't know, I'm just rambling. But then so Jeremy runs in and he's like, oh, what happened here, this and that, and they have a little exchange, and Michael is just gone. He's just, Jeremy just clotheslined him, and then I guess he just let him walk away, because he's like, where are you going? And then he just walks into the house, I guess. He just didn't care enough to bother. Like, what? You're just gonna let the bad guy of the film just run away? Like, it's not even like he was shifty or clever, like, by escaping. He just walked away because the hero didn't care enough to watch him. Like, how am I supposed to care about anything if the heroes don't even care about what's going on, right? Whatever. And then the movie ends with Vanessa, I guess Marionette, just waking up from her, like, little 20-minute power nap, and her just possessing her. And that's the end. And that's the end. And then they tease Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and the end credits with, the guys who run Fazbear Fright finding Springtrap in the back room. Okay, so here's a couple questions. One thing I liked about this scene was we found one, a real one. Of course, the iconic line from Five Nights at 3 from Phone Dude. I liked that. Was it tryhard? Absolutely. It was super tryhard and very forced. But I liked it anyway because it's a reference, okay? I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And with that being said, I'm just really scared to see what they're going to do with the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie. And I don't even know who they're going to have be the night guard, right? Because Michael Afton was the night guard in FNAF 3, and he kind of did it, I think, to confront his father because he hated him, right? He wanted to confront him. So if they're going to have, I guess, seemingly the only person they can have as the night guard is Mike Schmidt, why would he do that? Like, legit, he has no reason to do that. He should know at this point that it's a bad idea. And, like, he doesn't know that William is back as Springtrap, but if he even hears them talk about, oh yeah, we found this moldy, destroyed, like, really smelly animatronic in the back room of the abandoned Five Nights at Freddy's restaurant. He's like, that sounds familiar. I'm rambling, but also one more thing before I wrap this whole thing up. Why was he so moldy? Like, yeah, he was a corpse and he'd been dead for a while, but in the games, he had been in that back room for like over a decade. He was there for nearly like 20 years, I think. So of course he would look like that, but he'd only been there for a year. And obviously he would have been decomposed and stuff, but he wouldn't have looked like how he looked in the third game. Because, like, I mean, it's a process. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have looked like that immediately. It's a nitpick, but I'm just saying it's weird. Either way, would I recommend this film? No. No, I really wouldn't. I don't even really think this is good for fans because it's just not really a Five Nights at Freddy's movie because they're not even at Freddy's most of the time. And it's just, I don't know, I just wouldn't recommend it. And I just really didn't enjoy it. And with that being said, I think I would rate this film like a 3.5 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said anything. I've said my piece. So, guys, I hope you liked this video. Share it with friends. Subscribe. Turn those notifications on. Comment below if you liked it. But you guys know I didn't really mean to say that. What I really meant to say. So, if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe. Do not to change me in the comments. And I've been Runtime HD, off to survive Five Nights at Freddy's. See what I did there? That's the name of the movie and the video game franchises is Five Nights at Freddy's. So I'm gonna survive Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm super clever. So here's the thing. I am not really a fan of the modern FNAF games. I'm not saying they're bad. I just don't care. And I love the first 4 games. I have the most nostalgia for them. And when I say this is just straight up not a FNAF 2 movie, it's like, it doesn't follow anything from FNAF. It like basically changes everything about it. And I'm like, what is even the... Scott, you fucked this up. And it doesn't surprise me because I know you just made shit up as you went along. But Jesus, you could have... I don't even know if you could have done better, honestly. This is just frustrating. I don't like it. It's a hard enough life for us. It's hard enough life for me and other people who didn't like the movie.